One of the things that I have practiced for many decades now is a nightly ritual where I sit with my eyes closed and I recall or recapitulate everything that happened during the day. So on the screen of my consciousness, I see this entity referred to as Deepak Chopra, getting out of bed, going to the bathroom, brushing his teeth, etc., starting his meditation, doing his yoga, and just on the screen of consciousness, I witness this entity, Deepak Chopra, going through the day. Morning, afternoon, evening, bedtime. And I do this before I sleep, and then I say goodbye to that entity because it no longer exists. That dream character that woke up this morning and is now going to sleep, that particular sequence of the dream is over, doesn't exist. Been there, done that. And so the witnessing awareness is all that remains. It was there before the dream, it was there during the dream, it is there after the dream, it is there in deep sleep, and it is there when waking up. And everything else appears on the screen of that witness, just like everything is appearing now on your computer screen. Only the witness remains. The mind comes and goes, the intellect comes and goes, the ego personality comes and goes, the 5 subtle elements come and go, the 5 gross elements come and go, the 5 sensory organs perceive and then don't, the 5 motor organs act and then don't, the 5 elements, space, air, fire, water, and earth appear and disappear. Just the witnessing awareness remains. So recently, recently, at least for 2 decades, and I'm 76 now, I also witness the same thing at night, but not just the day, entire lifetime. So I go back to what I think were the first moments of awareness, reciting my ABCD to my mother or counting 1, 2, 3, and playing with my little brother, listening to the stories my mother used to sing. I track my body mind from as far back as I can in childhood and even infancy, and then teenage years, and then young adulthood, mature adulthood, this all the way to dusty death. So what is it that's witnessing all this? Different body, different mind, different personality, different situations, different encounters. What is it that is this witnessing awareness? Where is it? And does it have a form? Does it get born? Does it die? What is it? What? It's the eternal question, right? What am I, or who am I? But this exercise does do one thing. It convinces you that that which is witnessing is not in time, and that which is witnessed is in time. That is very clear. Experience is in time, and that which is generating the experience, having the experience, knowing the experience, in which the experience is disappearing, is not in time. And that is what we call I. But let's go over this I as a body-mind right now. So as a body-mind, I am the history of the universe, beginning with whatever caused the Big Bang, cosmic inflation, and the blank epoch, and the first generation of atoms, and the stars in which they were born, the crucible of burning stars, and then the first microorganisms, chemolitho-autotrophic hyperthermophiles, the rims of volcanoes, or perhaps oceanic hot springs in the depths of the ocean, volcanoes too, and then the interacting of these microorganisms amongst themselves, forming the matrix of the biosphere, and then appearing as all living organisms, not only bacteria, viruses, but the machinery to replicate existence, and then all the things that have happened since the beginning of time. Looking at this entity, Deepak Chopra, I say, who or what is this entity? And I can't find anything called a person. I realize that the person itself is a construct for the universal recycling and evolving in one particular movement that we call a person, and that is actually the universe experiencing itself for a flash of perception and cognition in a ceaseless outbreak of cognition and perception in infinite biological organisms, all happening at the same time and all entangled at the same time. In other words, there's nothing personal about this body-mind system that we're calling Deepak. All the atoms in this body come from all the atoms in all the bodies, right? All the thoughts in this body-mind are recycled. All the thoughts since we started telling stories and creating models of perceptual and knowing, which is modified form of knowing ourselves. Immanuel Kant said, "You can't know the thing in itself," which is not the perceptual or the phenomenal, but that which is beyond the phenomenon, and the noumenon. You cannot know the noumenon, but actually the noumenon, the thing in itself, is your own self appearing as an object. Wherever you go, all you experience is your own perceptual activity, which has no explanation. And yet, we take a set of those perceptual activities, which are snapshots of knowing, cognition, perception, awareness, knowing itself as that, and create subject-object split. We create that, and then we say, that's me, and then everything that happens to that entity, which you can't even pin down. I can't pin down an entity called Deepak. Is it the entity that was conceived when his father and his mother looked at each other with desire? Is it the fertilized ovum? Is it the zygote? Is it this? What is that entity that is the history that we call Deepak? Well, that entity has the history of the universe. Every biological form, every interaction of every gene with every other gene, every epigenetic phenomenon, every chance encounter, every random event, every meaningful coincidence, every synchronicity, every entanglement. And what you have is this now, as a movement of the universe, while the universe is also experiencing as many thises at the same time, parallel entities all coexisting at the same time. So where or what is Deepak can't be pinned down. Biologically can't be pinned down. As atoms and molecules and force fields can't be pinned down. I think I've mentioned this before, that my children carry the thalassemia minor trait, as does my wife, and that can be tracked to the invasion of the armies of Alexander the Great in 320 BC or something like that, 320 years before the appearance of Jesus Christ. Some soldier, either forcibly or with pleasure and mutual attraction, had an encounter with some village woman along the routes of the invasion of Alexander, 323. And that encounter is now in the footprints of time as thalassemia minor in my wife and now my children. And I too carry the histories of armies and invasions and empires and slaves and conquests in every single activity that I call this body mind. So the entire universe, biologically, the entire universe in the form of atoms and molecules is flowing through this entity that cannot be pinned down. And yet we take this personally. We take this personally. The reason not to take this personally is that there isn't such a thing as a person. What we call a person is a transient phenomenon of the total universe in a timeless now. And therefore, the first step in freedom from suffering is not to take yourself personally, not to take the comments of your fellow human beings, good or bad, about you personally, not to take any encounter, any rebuff, any flattery personally, because the person doesn't exist. So here is something I found today that I've shared in the past, but the first step in freedom from suffering, poem from Rabindranath Tagore that I heard as a child. He whom I enclose with my name, it all begins by a name, is weeping in this dungeon. I'm ever busy building this wall all around, and as this wall goes up into the sky day by day, I lose sight of my true being in its dark shadow. I take pride in this great wall, and I plaster it with dust and sand, lest a least hole be left in this name. And for all the care I take, I lose sight of my true being. Okay, that is what it means to sacrifice yourself for your selfie. I came out alone on my way to my tryst, but who is this that follows me in the silent dark? I move aside to avoid his presence, but I cannot escape him. He makes the dust rise from the earth with his swagger. He adds his loud voice to every word that I utter. He's my own little self, my Lord. He knows no shame, but I'm ashamed to come to your door in his company. One more. Prisoner, tell me, who was it that bound you? It was my master, said the prisoner. I thought I could outdo everybody in the world in wealth and power, and I amassed in my own treasure house the money that was due to my Savior, to my King, to my Lord. When sleep overcame me, I lay upon the bed that was for my sacred self, and upon waking, I found I was a prisoner in my own treasure house. Prisoner, tell me, who was it that wrought this unbreakable chain? It was I, said the prisoner, who forged this chain very carefully. I thought my power was invincible. I thought my invincible power would hold the world captive, leaving me in a freedom undisturbed. So night and day I worked at the chain with huge fires and cruel hard strokes. When at last the work was done and the links were complete and unbreakable, I found that it held me in its grip. As the jailer, I forged the chain, I was the prison, and I was the prison guard, but I was also the liberator. I is not a person in time. I is that which a person is a flowing movement in the infinite. I am having infinite experiences simultaneously in infinite perceived lokas, all coexisting and entangled at the same time. I am that. You are that. All this is that. Tattvamasi. So the first step in the liberation from suffering is don't take anything personally, because that on behalf of which you take things personally doesn't exist. Okay, you are divine. Don't forget yourself and confuse yourself with a person. That's the essential mistake of the intellect. Correcting the mistake of the intellect is the first step in liberation from suffering. Let me know what you think.